to our next question, which we're still on the post-COVID-19 society. Government, private institutions are called upon to contribute to the recovery effort of education. They will need to equip the innovations and strategies of successfully managing evolving challenges and resilience to adapt to future disruptions. So how should the government adjust and adapt to this new normal and contribute to the recovery of educational system, Mr. Chiola?
Yeah, I think we need to go disruption proof because now this is one virus that has caused all this havoc. We don't know what is coming. So it means that if you know everywhere needs to be locked down again, can we still continue to learn? So the question now is what can we do so that if we have this challenge in the future and even the one where we are right now, how can we continue to learn? How can the children continue to learn? And the digitized learning is still the solution. In 2013, the former governor of Osun State, Governor Rauf Aregbesola, who was also a commissioner in Lagos State at some point, introduced what they call appointment, tablet of knowledge. In his state, all school age children, junior secondary school up to senior secondary school, are given the tablet. Of course, there were many political, anything political in Nigeria has its own, setbacks. There are many failures of the program, but the initiative itself is something that, can be adopted. As at that time, there was no COVID. It was just, I saw it like a visionary, like a very, very good initiative, and it won several awards. You know, Students were able to get textbooks, electronic textbook on their palms in their houses. But the major challenge then was internet connectivity, you know, which I think this is something the private sector can, come, into play to make internet available. The government does not control. The government only regulates internet. The government is not the one that provides internet really. Private sectors, businesses, organizations, non-profits can, invest in making internet connectivity available for everybody. In some countries outside Nigeria, if you go on the street, there is Wi-Fi. You don't have to subscribe to MTN or Glo or anything. As long as you're on the public road, there is Wi-Fi. So if those kinds of facilities are available, and then we also have private sector, collaborating with government to do what Aregbesola did in Osun State at that time, to make these tablets available, cheaply. If it's something that can be produced cheaply, locally, to support the government, and it was recommended as for national adoption as at that time. But because this is politics, somebody else come in, they don't buy into that vision, and that was the end. So it was supposed to become a nationally adopted, so that school children can have it. So if they have it, it also enhances their learning. They can be independent and learning. Some of these things also have virtual classroom that the teacher can also come up, online, maybe schedule an online time for online class if there is Wi-Fi and all that. So those things are possible. So with collaboration from the part of government, the private sector, making the technology available, making the devices available cheaply, producing them locally, I believe we can.
I would like to quickly
Definitely.
chip in something here, talking about the future of education post-COVID. Number one, COVID has come to stay. But what is important is that every nation, the education system must be well planned. We cannot allow education to just go on like that without being planned. I believe in planning education. Now, why am I saying that? Those who are in the primary school today, right? Once they get to a particular age, they will move to secondary school. Secondary school will move to the university. And from those in university, they will come back. And the role of education. It's not just to be able to read and write. It's to be able to, vote right at election time. once they get to age 18, so that there will be less political, what I call conflicts here and there. But more importantly, they acquire knowledge and skill that they will do with their hand, and income, and then there will be stability in the environment. In other words, education should be able to contribute to national development. Now, the oil revenue from oil is doing it very fast. And so the only way we can develop as a nation is to begin to plan our education so that the skills and knowledge we acquire will be those needed in the priority sectors that will take Nigeria to the next level. Unless we have the right skills and knowledge, I'm talking about the people living the university system, we cannot be self-reliant in terms of having the manpower to spur our economic development. So, in other words, the digital learning certainly can never be a substitute for classroom pedagogical learning. Can never be a substitute. We must continue to invest, increase the budget for education, train teachers, teacher education, modernize teaching methods, then begin to have what they call shared services. Because when the resources are scarce, you cannot afford to have laboratory in every school. You can decide to now have a laboratory, a computer center shared by a group of schools within a catchment. And thereby, this government will spend less. And I agree with the last speaker that in doing so, the private sector need to come in. The internet providers, parents, philanthropic individuals all should contribute to ensure that we have a resilient educational system. Educational system that can easily adapt to the dynamics within the world, like the kind of thing we which was unprecedented. So we can no longer wait for this type of thing to happen again before we begin to modernize our teaching method, begin to increase the level of automation and digitalization and computerization of our educational system.
Thank you very
So we
much.
must plan ahead.
Yes. So, Ma, with what he has said, do you think that online classes can help revitalize education? Because I got something for what he said.
Yes, it is one of it. It is one of it. However, I want to believe that maybe the government is not making enough noise, or that the awareness, so maybe part of what the government should emphasize on now is creating awareness amongst the populace and the awareness. There are a lot of issues that I mentioned here, and I am wondering within me that you don't know this is happening. Before COVID in Lagos State, we started a project that we call Eco Excel. Do you know what that project is about? It's about digitalizing teaching. Teachers will now come to the class with their tab. The lesson to teach, the instructional materials to use, it will have been there. It will have been checked, and the teacher receives, and the teacher teaches, and it's monitored. The process started even before COVID, though it is not yet completed. But immediately after COVID, I think about 2 weeks ago, I was still in one of their training sessions. They had another batch of teachers for the training. And they have that.
Yes,
Then during COVID, Dr. Pascal, during COVID, the online teaching was not limited to private schools. It was not limited to private schools. I am a zonal head. In my zone, I covered Shomolu, Bariga, Axis zone. I can tell you that the public schools under my zone, they had online teaching.
No, get the point, madam. Get the point. I'm not saying they didn't have.
Okay,
But you
that
look
it
at
was
the parents,
not.
the poor parents,
Yes.
they don't have, some don't have electricity,
Yes.
they don't have computer.
How
It's
did
whether the children
online
actually,
learning-
Let him
that is
run.
it. That is the point, madam. Government has good intention. There's no doubt about it. They would have made provision for that. But the issue is, how many of these children from poor homes who are disadvantaged?
Then
We're
in
Who are
not
that
talking
case,
about the
then in
problem.
that case,
That's it. Inclusion,
then in that case,
inclusiveness.
then in that case, we will be talking about the challenges that we have, not that we do not have it. Of course, there are challenges. Just like you said, a lot of these learners could not even afford the tools to use. A lot of them, where the parents have more than one child, more than one in, I want, my own class is primary 1. I want to have an online class. My brother is in primary 2. He also wants to, and my mother has only one phone. My daddy has gone out. We have such challenges. But like I said, the pandemic has actually opened our eyes to a lot of things, and it's
The
like
inadequacies.
giving us a foresight so that we do not wait again. And do you know what we are preaching now in our public schools? That even post-COVID, blended learning must continue. What do I mean by blended learning? We have physical classes as well as online classes.
Everybody
So
classes.
in case
Hybrid.
there are issues,
Hybrid.
in case there are issues and you have to lock down again, they will not have a complete break as we had. So those gap, the learning gap, will not come up again. Of course, I agree. The online learning cannot, in fact, it is not possible, it cannot replace physical learning. Because with physical learning, the socialization,
Sure.
the interact, everything that we have
The
there.
most important one is that when you look at the three domains on education, acquiring knowledge, which is cognitive,
Yes.
psychomotor, and affect, how can you teach change of attitude, behavior, and
Through,
value through digital?
digital.
There must be interpersonal relation between teachers, better eye contact,
Yeah.
molding their behavior in the classroom. So
But-
that must continue. That
But-
must continue.
but-
Just to support her.
Yes, but that be as it may, even in the absence of pandemic, then we can say we now, but I doubt if we can really have that again. And that is why the government is saying, even now that we feel we are physically present, let us still go on with our blended learning.
I
okay.
actually believe that even without the pandemic, the blended learning
Must
has
continue.
additional advantage.
Yes.
Even as a university student, when I was in the university, the fact that I have a device to connect to the internet, to do more research, to do more study, to do more learning, gives me more understanding of what I'm learning in class. So I have the advantage of the classroom learning, and I also have the advantage of, personal development, which I believe it can trickle down.
Yes,
into
just to support what they
secondary,
just said. 4 years ago, about 2014, 15, I developed an e-learning program. I call it Trophy Leap. What does it do? You have self-study guide, packages, they study, and after 2 weeks, they face the exam. So it was integrated into their normal learning process because it was a continuous assessment but automated so that it was web-enabled. So the point they are making is that you don't need to plan education in relation to a crisis like this. But if it does happen, the system will be enough to absorb shock.
Sure.
Shock will always come. You understand? But more importantly, is looking at the quality of education that must be provided. Now, all this technology, modernizing teaching methods are all part of the overall way of improving the quality of instruction.
Sure.
And it is a must for education. It's not all over the world. If you move from one country to another, you find out that people are at different levels of educational development. And the problem are somewhat similar. The only difference is the implementation, how we implement
No country
education.
actually was
Implementation and
All the
successful.
problems are similar.
monitoring.
No country was successful with online learning anywhere in the world.
Because what determines the quality
during
of
the
education,
COVID,
right?
whatever.
Usually the major determinant of quality of learning and education is the quality of the teachers. The variability and the use of the various teaching aids and methods, including application of their applicable technology to soften the challenges children face while reading or studying on their own. So once they're able to do this, and government, private organizations, NGO like you, parents, having known the value of education, all of us should be part of it. So that education become really resilient and robust. So that even when shocks come, crises come in the future, we will not be taken unaware. I think that is the point we are trying to make.
Thank you very much. So now with what you said that the government provided these devices for children to learn, we hope these devices can get across to other communities. So maybe your community has already gotten this access to these devices for children to use in school. There might be other communities that haven't gotten this. That is why you might hear them say, we don't know about this. So we are hoping that all these devices get across to other
No, what the government
students.
needs to do with respect, we are talking about inclusiveness now and equity in terms of access to learning opportunities. What the government, in view of the fact that the resources are scarce, the budget is never enough, what the government would do, right? You recall that we used to have what they call public library. You can have a public digital
Library.
library where everybody will have access. That's one.
Yeah.
There are some even neighborhood who may not even have electricity and the rest of them.
True.
But they will have a television. We can begin to develop CDs, recorded lectures, and you put them in the public library. And when they gather in the evening for 1 hour, you put it on and they will listen. So there are methods, that we can actually explore. There are options that will enable to reduce cost of learning on the part of government, and at the same time, getting learning closer to the people.
Thank you very much.